Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway in Hampton, Georgia, for tonight's coverage of the Northwest Cup Series, live on LSR TV, your home for sim racing. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Greg Rentz, with Charles Wooden in the director's seat for what should be a fun one tonight. 134 laps, NIS distance for what should be some great racing at Hotlanta. First things first, Greg, the series is coming into tonight looking for what should be a stellar race, especially since the Truck Series put on such a good show on Thursday.
The Cup Series looking to follow up that incredible race here on Thursday. Dan West Jr. coming away with the win in that truck race, looking to follow it up with a series that he's really been just as strong in the Truck Series, just has had not as much luck getting through in victory lane. He did win at Homestead earlier this year, but he's looking to follow it up here and sweep the week at Atlanta. And I believe that would make him the first driver all year to pull off a sweep of the week in the Northwest Racing Series this year.
Yes, indeed. The last time the Cup Series was on the track was before Easter, and that was when they were at Bristol Motor Speedway. In that race, it was Jeff Stabnow who came away with the checker flag in a 35-car field, and that was some exciting action for Stabnow. It was his first victory of the season, Greg.
Yeah, Stabnow finally breaking through and getting that first win. That was the race that unfortunately I was not able to be there, as I was battling a very, very nasty illness that I'm still dealing with. So I'm happy to be back in the tower here tonight, but we're excited to be back going here at Atlanta here tonight with the Cup Series after the weekend off for the Easter holiday. And I know a lot of these drivers were very, very antsy to get back going.
Indeed, the drivers currently have their drivers meeting underway before they start qualifying tonight. As these drivers get ready to go, let's talk about the championship fight so far this season. Entering round number 7 of the campaign, and on top of the board, Dan West Jr. enters the race with the points lead. 24 points is the distance between him and Chris White. Dan West Jr. has also won victory on the campaign. White, the highest non-winner in the points, rather, so far. Seth Frazier comes in tonight third. Jeff Stabnow, Stephen Paulison round of the top 5. Sean Breitzman lost 2 positions in the last race at Bristol. Casey Tillman, John Annenbacher, Daryl Tidrick, along with Ricky Bowser, rounding out the top 10 positions in the points. Your thoughts on the championship fight so far, Greg, this season in the regular season campaign?
I'm really enjoying the points battle here so far, as we're kind of seeing drivers come and go through the point standings early on, as we're still early in the race. So the shakeup is still in that point where it's going to happen much more often as opposed to when we get later on into the season. I'm really enjoying watching as Breitzman and Frazier battle it out. Frazier, of course, with those 2 wins early, it's kind of settled down a little bit as of late, whereas Breitzman came through with that strategy win in Texas and really catapulted himself. But since then, the points battle, or the point situation for Breitzman, hasn't exactly gone his way, as there's been some problems in the luck department for Breitzman lately.
Yeah, absolutely. Breitzman having a rough one at Bristol, to say the very least, after some good speed. The rest of the points currently scrolling through. One thing to note, in the event there are a lot of drivers who make their way to the circuit, the top 20 points rule is in effect tonight. Anyone below the top 20 in points will have to qualify in on time, depending on the number of entry-ins. So, for those tuning in for the first time, remember, a lot of these drivers fighting for positioning and wins to be able to get into the playoffs that start in late October in what is an overall 34 race season, Greg.
Yeah, we're still making a lot of headway through this season. So playoffs are starting to take shape right now, even though we're still so far out. It's going to be very interesting to see how these races unfold throughout the remainder of the regular season.
In total, 30 drivers have made their way to Atlanta Motor Speedway, one of the more tricky mile-and-a-half circuits in all of iRacing and all of stock car racing, because first things first, let's look towards the weather conditions. Today is May 15th in sim. The track temperature, 111 degrees Fahrenheit, fairly slick, with winds gusting at 7 miles per hour to the northwest. Partly cloudy skies, though. Keep that in mind, as well as 85 degrees is the air temp. Greg, your thoughts on those weather conditions that these drivers are going to have to deal with? Pretty slick out there.
It's going to be very, very slick out there, and especially with this old beat-up racing surface, they're already going to be slipping and sliding as is. Throw in that 111-degree track temperature, they're going to be eating up those tires more and more. We saw that quite a bit on Thursday. The fall-off was about 2 seconds from the start of the run to the end of the run. I'm expecting more of the same here today as this race unfolds, because, Justin, the old track surface combined with a very high track temperature going to be very, very slippery out there, especially later in the run as things start to settle down. And I know a lot of drivers are hoping, once qualifying begins, they're hoping to catch a cloud, which it is a little bit cloudy out there, not a whole lot, partly cloudy at best. So a lot of drivers will be hoping that they catch a cloud for qualifying so they can nail a good time. Otherwise, this is going to be a very interesting qualifying session.
And this is a very interesting race, too, where we're back to the mile and a half, where, remember, has high downforce throughout the 2020 season, like in 2019. We've had a fairly even split in high downforce, low horsepower, and low downforce, higher horsepower races so far this season. How do you expect the racing to be once again here in Atlanta, the first time these drivers are back at a mile and a half circuit or above since Homestead, Miami on March the 30th?
I'm thinking back, it might be similar, I believe, to what we saw at Texas earlier. We saw a lot of drivers worrying about track position and trying to fight their way up and get themselves in position for the second half, as it's a similarly shaped track, not so much anymore with the new configuration of Texas, but it's a overall very similar layout, so I'm expecting to see more of what we saw there, with the track position being key throughout the course of the run to set yourself up for the final push to the finish.
As these drivers continue to discuss things before qualifying, a couple things to note. You mentioned the toughness of this track. One of the reasons, tires were stressed to drivers in the pre-race briefing for tonight, sent out to competitors earlier this morning, especially if there's a string of few green flag laps. With 134 laps of the distance tonight, it's a two-stopper on fuel. Here's the difficulty, Greg, making sure you make it to the end of your fuel window on tires.
Especially with a racetrack such as this, where you're slipping and sliding, that could cause you to have one momentarily lapse in judgment, and it can end your day in a big hurry. So we're hoping that drivers are able to clean it up, as Justin, it looks like qualifying has begun as we see some cars rolling out onto the track to begin their qualifying session.
Now tonight, we'll see group qualifying. That's where you see all these drivers together. Keep in mind that it's going to be a major factor when it comes to how these times will settle on down. In practice, the fastest times were separated by 0.5 of a second in some cases, to as much as a couple 1,000ths of a second. Brian Barnes, Chad Malik, Dan West Jr., Scott Mann, Chris White put in the best practice times rather. They were separated by 0.8 of a second. In other words, if you are in the draft, you're likely going to be at the top of the pylon in this Q session today.
So a lot of drivers will probably understand that, and they will be trying to get themselves into a position where they get behind the car to start it off so they can tack on to the draft. And we see it already. I saw Seth Frazier in a new look for the 32 car. He was able to get right behind the 92 of Tillman for the first lap, and we're seeing how much that draft pays off. 29.823. Seth Frazier's on the top of the board.
Pretty decent lap time for qualifying. Many drivers continue to work either in single car situations or checking at packs. Taking a look at the 41, for example. Stephen O'Hare, he's got no one to work with at the moment for this qualifying session. Even with that, he was one of the quicker drivers early in the session at 29.871.
So O'Hare might have been able to tack on to a driver for that first lap, as we see Dylan Huffines behind him. He's trying to possibly set up and get behind the draft so he can tack on and try to nail a lap here. As we see right here, that's the advantage of the draft. We're going to see a lot more of that in the race today, but Huffines not able to keep it pinned behind him, and O'Hare's just going to let him go. So Dylan Huffines' strategy goes out the window there.
And Huffein's car also went straight to the wall just after we showed that. So towards the 53 machine we go. Carl Burke driving one of the Miller-sponsored machines tonight. And mind you, even being behind someone in the draft can be very difficult. Remember, aero push, a major factor of this package. You run behind somebody for more than 5-10 laps, you'll start getting tighter and tighter and tighter on the racetrack.
So you kind of have to pick and choose when you're going to do that here in this qualifying session to not mess up your lap too much. Right now, Casey Tillman in the Hooters entry on top of the board with a 90 or a 29.689. I was looking at his car number 92. Number 92 Tillman on top of the charts right now, and he came out for another run behind Dan Lowther, but he's shooting to the outside instead. So it looks like he is not going to worry about the draft for this second attempt at qualifying.
I'd be trying to set up an extra lap after this. It does get to where the fastest laps in this package, usually the ones about by lap 5, lap 10 here at the mile-and-a-half circuits and above. Tillman trying to set himself, as you mentioned, in the draft. Do have a few drivers, though, trying to pop out right in front of him. Carl Burke nearly came right up across that pack.
And Lowther and Tillman both did a great job there to avoid the 53 of Burke as they come through. Tillman was able to tuck right up on there in the number 92, and we'll see if that helps him out with his qualifying time. No, it stays the same this time around.
Again, Tillman, as you see on the left side of your screen, is at the top of the board with a 29.689. That is about half a tenth of a second quicker than Dan West Jr., James Vining, Jeff Stabnow, Chris White rounds out the top 5. 26 drivers have already came out onto the racetrack with drafting partners. So in these final few moments of qualifying will end at 8:30 p.m. Pacific time. Your thoughts on some of the drivers who already have good track position for tonight?
Well, obviously you got to wonder about the guy in second, Dan West Jr. How is he going to run the early stages of the race? As we know, he has a lot of speed in that number 55 car this season. And I'm noticing that I'm looking through the entry list. I'm not seeing his son, Devin West, in the field right now. So looks like West Family Racing is going with one bullet here tonight. Dan West Jr. looks like the only entry from that stable tonight.
Here so this evening, again, we've seen fields as large as 35 plus. This is currently on track for the smallest total of entrants on the season. The previous lowest was at Rockingham, where it was 32 drivers in that field. Seth Frazier won that race for the Rock 125. But still a few more minutes to go on the board for qualifying at this point. Taking a look at Sean Breitzman. He's one of the drivers who are trying to put in a late queue time. Here's the problem. Corey Walters, Dan West Jr. are drafting off of him, and Breitzman doesn't have anyone to draft off of for himself. However, did shoot up the board to 16th.
So 29.874, the time for Breitzman puts him, like you mentioned, in the 16th position. And from the comments that Breitzman made in the drivers' meeting, I believe we only have about another minute and a half left in qualifying before we move into the race. So final stages of qualifying here, drivers just trying to get that last lap in, as Casey Tillman's still the only driver to hit the 29.6 so far, as Breitzman now jumps up into the unlucky 13 position with an 8.40. So yes, the cars behind him drafting off him was able to help him out just a little bit, as he was able to use that draft.
Still everyone dicing their way around this racetrack for as good of qualifying times as they can get here to take advantage of this draft pack situation. Compared to some of the drivers' practice times, some have picked up pace, some have fallen off a full tenth of a second, and the track is getting hotter as more and more drivers put rubber down on the racetrack. Remember, it does carry over from the practice session to qualifying, then qualifying to the race. So the more laps you turn, the more rubber is built up, and because of the group qualifying, there is a lot more rubber than you normally see for the drop of the green flag for race conditions tonight.
And once that green flag comes out, that track temp is going to build up even higher and higher, because more and more rubber is being set down. This is just qualifying runs that these drivers are doing now. Imagine how much rubber is going to get built up on a race run when we get possibly 20, 30, maybe even 40 laps in on a run before these drivers change tires. So the rubber buildup is going to be exponentially more than what we're seeing right now here in the early stages of this race.
Final moments of qualifying as we reach 8:30 p.m. Pacific time, 11:30 p.m. Eastern time. Lots of drivers having trouble down the back straightaway, as you can see. That is Huffines and Seth Frazier getting tangled up in the closing stages of qualifying. But to reset the top 10, Tillman, West Jr., Vining, Frazier, Nichols now, O'Hare, Stabnow, Mann, White, Jennings. And remember, some of those drivers were as high as 4th and 5th just about 2 minutes ago. That's just the nature of how quickly things can change if you get a good enough queue run in.
Drivers still trying to get one final shot in before the session gets moved up and we begin our race, as a couple more drivers coming out on the track for one final stab at it, including the current guy on top of the charts, Casey Tillman, trying to get as many good laps as he can. So even though he's sitting on top of the charts, Tillman might not be comfortable just sitting there. He might want to be out there defending his time and trying to get a better one until the very, very end.
Yeah, right now, Tillman trying to help out Dylan Huffines. The two of them teammates tonight trying to build up as much speed as they can. With the timing up towards the left side of your screen, maybe have one shot to try and help Dylan Huffines get track position. He is in 27th position. Keep an eye on the 5 car. Tillman trying to help him out here. And Huffines really getting the draft as he hits Seth Frazier.
And Huffines is going to spin down to the wall, and there goes that for Dylan Huffines. And he was sitting 27th on the charts, and they're still wrecking behind him. And it's good news for him and Dan West Jr. and others that they're going to get the backup cars ready to go for this main event, because that was a nasty lick. And I'm sure a lot of drivers would be very happy knowing that they have a backup car ready at their disposal and something like that.
It definitely looked like Tillman was trying to help his friend in Dylan Huffines. Unfortunately, him and a few others get tangled up, and because of that, Casey Tillman holds on to the pole as qualifying comes to an end. In total, he's the only driver in the 29.6s this evening, with a 29.689 for tonight's race from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Let's take a look at the rest of the grid now, as Dan West Jr. will start alongside him when the green flag drops. In row number 1, James Vining, Seth Frazier in row 2, Gary Nichols and Stephen O'Hare round out row 3. Tower King quietly moves his way to 7th position in qualifying, with Jeff Stabnow in 8th. Scott Mann and Chris White round out your top 10 and the drivers in the 7s, Greg.
Steve Jennings brings it in at 11th at a 29.807 to begin the drivers in the 8-second bracket, well, the 20.8 second bracket. To his outside, Dan Lowther in the 85. John Ottenbacher, the other LSR TV entry with Sean Breitzman, will roll off in the 13th position. Justin McClure had a good run going in the trucks here, qualifies 14th. Chad Malik will roll off in the 15th position, edging out Ricky Bozer by just 3/1000ths of a second, who will start 16th. Carl Burke and Sean Breitzman bring up row number 9 with the 53 and the 46, 17th and 18th. Rounding out your top 20 starters is Brett Johnson in the 7 and Scott Hutchinson in the 91.
Timothy Rickett Jr. starts 21st. Corey Walters trying to draft off a few drivers will instead start 22nd. Bruce Weaver driving a 3M paint scheme in 23rd. Stan Stuzzi in 24th. BJ Tidrick starts alongside Daryl Tidrick in row P25 and 26. Dylan Huffines had a good shot at bumping up his time from the 30 flats. Instead, got in a crash at the checker flag of qualifying. 27th is where he'll start. Frank Harris, Brian Barnes round out the top 29 in main qualifiers. Caden Anderson, should note, came in the final 30 seconds of qualifying to put in a time. 30th on the board. Stephen Paulson is the only driver in the entire field not to qualify for this evening's action from Atlanta Motor Speedway. So once again, distance 1.54 miles here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. 24 degrees of banking in the turns, 5 degrees on the straightaways here in Hampton, Georgia. Track conditions have cooled off between qualifying and the green flag of the race to 108 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds are currently gusting 7 miles per hour to the northwest. That is currently facing the turn 3 banking at the moment. As these drivers get ready for the green flag for what should be a wild one tonight, Greg, your keys to victory.
You're going to want to save your tires as much as you possibly can through the early stages of the run to be able to get a run in the second half, especially if we have stages of long green flag runs. You want to have tire management as good as you possibly can through the early stages of a run and have something left here on the car for the second half. And of course, you got to keep track position in mind. We saw it in the truck series how important it was. Track position and tires, you got to find the perfect combination of putting that together today.
We'll see who can get that perfect combination tonight as the Power Puff Girls machine will bring to the green flag. Dan West Jr. in the Effective Web Solutions machine starts on the outside. Remember, West Jr. the winner in the truck race. That moved him to 5th all-time in that series' history in victories with 5 total career wins. Gonna be a wild one tonight from Atlanta Motor Speedway. 134 laps, all set to go. Pace car is off. Green flag is up. We're underway.
West Jr. doing a good job hanging with Tillman here at the early stages of this one. We're not used to seeing the outside lane stick with the inside lane that good on the start, as West Jr. actually has the nose in front with help from Seth Frazier as they come off turn number 2 for the first time. Tillman able to get a run down the inside, but Dan West Jr. doing a great job hanging with him.
And one of the main things with Atlanta Motor Speedway is it's important to be on the bottom. Yes, you can get runs off the corner, but they're only effective for the most part from competition so far. Singles got tangled up with Scott Mann. Everyone scatters. We're still green.
Still green. They keep it going here down the backstretch. Early stages, just lap 2 on the charts right now as we continue to try to settle things down here and get things sorted out. Dan West Jr. is broken out into the lead, as you see right here, the final stages of that, as Nichols is able to settle it down. West leads it for lap number 2. They're still side by side for second between Tillman and Frazier. Here comes Stab now creeping up into the picture.
And the more they fight side by side like this, Greg, the more they'll burn up their tires, put more heat into them, and in turn make it more difficult to keep up with West Jr. already 3-4 car lengths ahead, while Stab now electing to take the preferred bottom side. Just see how many bumps you have here at Atlanta. That also makes this a challenge with this package.
Yeah, this racing surface is so old. Every time the Cup Series comes here, the NASCAR Cup Series that is, they always talk about, is this the last year of this racing surface? Is this the last year of this racing surface? Still the racing surface from the configuration, so this is an old, worn out surface. The drivers love driving it because it poses a challenge, but you're seeing it right here just how difficult it is on these tires as the drivers try to settle things down and just try to find a way to keep things moving solidly through the first few laps.
And it looks like Casey Tillman might be actually struggling a little bit here in the early going, especially on apex off. The bottom side is usually the dominant side at Atlanta. The problem is everybody's just able to make a pass on the high side here. Actually tries to hit Stab now. It's a side draft, instead hits the wall.
Hard shot to the driver's side door for Tillman came up, and everyone did a great job to dodge him, but problems early for the pole sitter as he tried the side draft and it just didn't work out for him, and he shot down driver's door first, and suddenly your pole sitter, Casey Tillman, is going to be the first car on pit road with a lot of problems, and this is not the way Casey Tillman wanted his day to start.
Nope, absolutely. That moves Stabno, by the way, to 3rd position. Stabno, no damage. Tillman now having to use his one fast repair for tonight. Now the focus is, though, on Frazier, Stabno, and O'Hare to try and close in a little bit on Dan West Jr. as Stabno continues to protect that ever so strong bottom side.
O'Hare taking a peek to the outside. The Stab now falls in behind, and now we have a kind of a 3-car single file draft there with Frazier, Stab now, and O'Hare, with James Vining hanging on there, trying to sniff the back bumper of O'Hare to try to pull up and get a draft for himself. Looks like it's working as he closes in a little bit there down the backstretch into 3 and 4 and off of 4. Yes, Vining was able to catch on to the back of the draft from Stephen O'Hare, and James Vining creeping up into the picture, and suddenly now we have 4 cars here trying to get lined up as Stab now shoots to the outside of Frazier.
Might have held too much throttle that time, nearly hit the back end of Seth Frazier in the middle of the quarter. O'Hare, though, can take advantage, elects to keep it single file. And this is kind of the chess match when it comes to the high downforce package for the Cup Series in real life and on the sim. If you elect to say make a bunch of passes early on, yes, it gets you track position, but eventually you're going to lose grip and quickly. You have to be kind of patient like what we're seeing with these drivers and be more, how do I put this, thought process more focused on for passes tonight.
Have to be more calculated with
yes
passing in this situation, especially with this old beat-up track surface like we mentioned. And we're seeing drivers not really taking any unnecessary risks here early. I think might that be because they saw what happened with Tillman there, just trying to side draft off Stab now to try to hold on to the third spot, and wouldn't you know, it just shot him down as the air just didn't agree with it, and before you knew it, Stab now in the wall. He's going to spin out in front of the field. Everybody dodges him for now. Caution is out. Can the rest of the field dodge him?
And the answer is no. There goes Jennings with a hard shot to the right side. Corey Walters also slides into the incident. A few others spun to the back of the field. BJ Chidrick also got some damage in the carnage. So there's your first caution flag of the night. And that's one of the difficulties of turn 2 exit. If you get too high up, you're likely going to smack the wall like we just seen. And Stabno, it almost looked like had been trying that entire time to try and avoid arrow push.
Yeah, we saw him. He was on the outside for quite a few laps there, just trying to stay out of that zone where you get into that arrow push. And it just bit him a little bit there as he just slid up the track coming off turn number 2 and caught the wall.
See if we can take a look here on the OSR TV replay. You see the hit to the wall. And just no time for him to try and correct it. Almost got through scot-free until Jennings couldn't see what was happening.
Yeah, Carl Burke, what a job he did getting through that, as you see Tindrick sliding there in the back. But did you see how close Carl Burke came to the back of Jennings there on that replay? As looks like no surprise here, the entire field saying, okay, I will take 4 fresh tires, please, as we pull in. I don't think we're going to see any strategy come into play here through most of the race. I think everybody's going to be 4 tires every stop.
Yeah, 2 tires, very difficult to handle here at Atlanta, especially, remember, with the fixed setup here as everyone rolls into the pit box. Gary Nichols really further up compared to some of the others. Frazier a little bit farther back. See who comes off with the pit road victory. Some of the drivers at the end of the lane are coming off and rolling, and West Jr. still maintains the race lead. Remember with the Truck Series race, though, Greg, Dan West Jr., as soon as he got clean air, was the quickest driver on the mid to long run in that race. But that was open set. This is fixed.
And you know the West family, they love trying out different things with the setup. I know Dan and Devin typically go with 2 very similar but slightly different setups for their races. That's not in the cards tonight. This is a fixed setup. Every single driver is on the same exact setup. I believe the only thing you can change is perhaps some stuff with the steering. That's about it. So we'll see how this unfolds throughout the course of the day.
And we already had at least 4+ tenths of a second of fall off throughout that entire 10-lap spurt alone. So that just shows how the tires have already worn for some of these drivers tonight in some of these battles. By the way, Justin McClure was given an end of longest line penalty during this caution flag period. Some other drivers are ducking down a second time to the pit lane as well in the back part of the field after what happened according to Bruce Lee Weaver for a second set of service. So, your thoughts on the racing so far, though, as we get ready to come back underway, and still what is a potential one-stopper for fuel, but maybe not for tires.
Definitely not for tires. You're going to want tires as much as you possibly can, and I think every single caution flag, if the run goes more than, say, 10 laps, you're definitely going to want 4 fresh tires every time. But I was honestly expecting drivers to be a little more aggressive at the start, but I like what I saw with drivers not really pushing it a whole lot in the early stages, and we saw twice now that drivers just trying something different and not trying to just ride along. It bit them both times in the early stages, so that might be weighing in the back of their heads and say, hey, we might just ride it out for the first half of the race, and once we get into the second half, that's when we'll start seeing a couple more drivers make some aggressive moves through the course of the day to try to get things going. But I want to talk about one guy. Caden Anderson came in at the very very last minute of qualifying. Didn't even get a lap at speed. He has already gained 12 positions on the chart. Started 30th up to 18th already. Caden Anderson making moves in the early stages.
Yeah, he has definitely been trying to gain track position quickly. It's been taking advantage of what has been 2-3 wide at some points at the back of the field. Meanwhile, the lights are out on top of the iRacing official pace car. Dan West Jr. is in the lead. Seth Frazier, Stephen O'Hare, James Vining in the top 4. Gary Nichols in 5th. Autumn Bacher, Malik, Bozer, along with Burke and Ricketts Jr. round out the top 10 at the moment. The question is going to be, how will this start fare out? Remember, most drivers went to the bottom and quickly off the drop of the green flag last run.
Remember, Dan West Jr. was able to hang right with Tillman on that initial start. We'll see if Frazier can do the same here, because we know how good Dan West Jr. is on these restarts. It's going to be very difficult for Frazier to hang with him, but we'll see if he's able to match what West Jr. was able to do on that first restart.
29 drivers. Yep, absolutely. 29 drivers on the lead lap, by the way. Stabnow, 2 laps down, 1 lap down for Justin McClure. Pace car is off. This time, West Jr. stacks it. Green flag is back out at Atlanta.
And West Jr. is able to pull away, but look at Frazier able to tuck right in behind West, although West went a little bit high. So yes, Frazier was able to tuck in behind West Jr.
Oh, trouble in turn 1. Drivers are spinning. At the back of the field, Stan Stussy involved, Hutchinson involved, Chris White's in the grass. And that was a quick second caution flag of the race, as Stabnow just drives around all of it.
Stabnow able to get going, taking a look at the replay. Oh, some contact with the wall up there, and you see him just going around, and the field just bottlenecks, and there's nowhere for anyone to go.
I believe that may have been Hutchinson, who was up at the very top of the start of the incident, and some others got stuck on the banking already. A quick second caution flag of the race, getting maybe an 1/8 of a lap in at that point.
So just an 1/8 of a lap, but one thing that I was watching happen on that restart, Frazier was able to get in behind West Jr. like we talked about, but with West Jr. coming up a groove, Stephen O'Hare was able to get to the bottom of Seth Frazier and was still able to complete the pass there, Justin.
Yep, absolutely. So still able to just get that off in time before the caution flag, as these drivers still line up behind the official iRacing pace car. Coming towards the start of lap number 17, standing by in the cockpit, currently 31st position in the running order, Jeff Stabnow, as he is still in the race. Had to use a faster pair after what happened to the first caution. What happened, Jeff, on that caution flag?
Well, it was real weird. I didn't have a lot of wear. We were just kind of cruising, and I got really tight on the exit of that corner, and Seth messaged me too and said he did too, and we both pushed up. He didn't have anything to do with me pushing into the wall, but I went back, and it looks like it's related to tire temps. I didn't have much wear on the tire, but the tires were pretty hot, and so I think it was a tire temp issue, and we're going to have to watch that going forward here.
What was the tire temp, if you don't mind me asking, on that tire?
Yeah, 302 in the center.
That is actually really hot, and normally you are aiming for under 300 degrees Fahrenheit for reference sake. But now, after what happened, what's kind of your strategy? Because you're back in 31st position, you're now pinned 2 laps down with 2 other drivers not on the lead lap. What do you do at this point?
Well, I think we just ride around, save some tire. Maybe I'd get in position to take a waiver on, and then, at some point fight for the lucky dog. But until I get back on that 1 lap down with the other cars, there's not a lot I can do. Just try to avoid the carnage. It's a long race. There'll be plenty of opportunities.
Absolutely, but of course, you came away with the victory last race at Bristol. You're in a good points position. How would you describe the season now, heading towards the midway portion of the regular season in a couple races?
I think we're in a good spot. I'm kind of new to the Cup cars. We've been racing Xfinity and trucks in here for a long time. So I thought my first half of the season, my goal was just going to be try to top 10, top 5 and get good finishes, and worry about maybe getting some wins in the second half. So we got a win already. As long as I meet the minimum requirements, which I should be able to, we'll have a playoff spot locked in. So I'm pretty happy with the season so far.
Drivers still lining up single file behind the iRacing official pace car. Before we get the one to go signal, what else do you want some of the fans to know in terms of anything new for you, sponsors, anything like that before we get back to green?
Oh, we just appreciate all the new fans we've got out there and the relationship we've got with LSR TV. You know, I think the pros racing, iRacing here have met quite a bit of new fans here for us and LSR TV, and we just appreciate the good show you guys put on and all you do for us.
Thank you very much for the time, Jeff. Good luck the rest of the way.
All right, thanks, guys.
That was Jeff Stabnow. He's currently in 31st position, was involved in the first caution flag. Couple things to note. As we started that interview, BJ Tidrick fell to 2 laps down. He was one of the drivers involved in the second caution flag and the first caution flag. Well, one other driver did get their lead lap back in Dan Stuzzi. So he is now in the lucky dog spot before the green flag this time by. They will double file them this time. But Greg, want to refer something to what was said in the first question, where all of a sudden it got tight for him and Seth Frazier. That's a telltale sign of aero push coming in.
And we saw it because they were both kind of riding there. The aero push, we talked about it in the pre-race, so sensitive here on these 1.5-mile tracks that, yeah, that sounded like a telltale sign of aero push, which we see that so often here at these big tracks. But that info he gave us about the tire temperatures, that's alarming to me. But I'm kind of curious to see what happens if we get another run that matches. I believe that was a 10 or 11 lap run. That's going to be a little bit alarming for me going forward to see how it unfolds if we get a longer run than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember, though, the aero push can make it your car wear as much as 20-30% more tire wear, depending on how much dirty air you have during a run. Dan West Jr., his clean air looks to pull away. Green flag is back out, and Frazier already side by side for second.
We're seeing right there what that inside line has for it going in early, as this time Frazier is able to get the spot back from O'Hare. Remember, O'Hare was able to sneak under Frazier right as the caution came out last time and get the spot. Frazier says, "No, thank you, I'll take it right back, sir." And he moves into second place as the first side-by-side battle is for fifth, John Ottenbacher, Gary Nichols.
And there's that bottom line we talked about a little bit, starting to come in just a little bit. Everybody electing to stay right against that white line in the middle of the corners. Giving a little bit of draft to both these drivers, and you can do that a lot here, where you might say defend by trying to give a bit of draft to both the cars in front, help them get side by side and you're even in the middle of the corner, middle of the entry rather, and in turn make it difficult to pass.
Yeah,
as that's gone,
who was not making it difficult to pass, Seth Frazier, was able to get around Dan West Jr., and he's bringing Stephen O'Hare with him. We have a new leader up front. It's Seth Frazier.
The reason being, on the last lap, Frazier got a huge run of draft to get by West Jr. Kept West Jr. up on the top side for a full lap, and now Dan West Jr. has fallen back to third, and there's that back and forth we were kind of expecting here in the short run.
So the Tiger King able to get a run into turn number 3 and get the lead, but he's got Stephen O'Hare right behind him, with Dan West Jr. closing right back in on O'Hare, and West Jr. already taking a peek to the inside to try to get it back. So Dan West Jr. saying, hey, I want the lead back as quickly as I could possibly get it. He knows track position is going to be very key here. He gets around Stephen O'Hare relatively easily through 1 and 2 there, and goes back to work on Seth Frazier as they sort of fan out behind him. John Ottenbacher and James Vining taking a little bit of a lower line through there as the battle continues back there. I believe that's Scott Mann up on the outside trying to get that line working of Gary Nichols, but a battle breaking out for the lead as Dan West Jr. taking a peek on the outside. Frazier shuts the door.
Taking a look now from shark fin of Seth Frazier. Clean air in front, but lots of drivers dicing just behind his rear view spoiler. Keep an eye on the left side. Dive to the inside. West Jr. for the race lead once again. Frazier looking to defend with the higher arc off the corner. Able to keep it side by side of the stripe. O'Hare trying to draft off the back of the 55.
Frazier all by himself on the high side. That's not where you want to be in this draft-heavy package. There it is once again. Stabnow able to get the lead. Can Frazier get down in front of O'Hare before he can? Yes, O'Hare falls in, and actually Frazier's able to get a run on the outside with some help from O'Hare there. So right back to it. O'Hare now kind of right in the middle as Frazier will tuck in behind. But look at Scott Mann on the outside, able to get around everybody. James Vining comes fighting back on the inside though. Scott Mann making the outside lane work early.
Scott Mann may be holding the throttle a little bit harder. Just look at how hard he's sitting on apex. James Vining looks like he's trying to save Greg though, because he let off the gas, and that's something you can do to save your tires for the mid to long run so you have speed then. Go half throttle, if not quarter throttle in the corners to make sure you have enough grip for the long run.
And we talked about that in the pre-race. You wanted to try to find that healthy mix of tire saving but keeping good track position. Looks like James Vining may have found that in the early stages as he's riding in 5th, currently battling for 4th. But like you mentioned, he is going a little bit easier than, say, the top 3 or Scott Mann alongside him. So it looks like Vining may have found that early happy place there between the middle.
The Vinci Racing Machine this time trying to shove Mann up the racetrack with a higher arc. And it looks like that will work, so the bottom line prevails. The problem is the amount of side draft they had has nearly lost him the draft on the front nose. Half a second is the difference. A second nearly had a peek to the inside just in front of this.
Man now falls back as Vining able to clear him. He might shoot up in front of him. Yes, he will, to try to get that draft from him as Ottenbacher rides behind him, and Mann gets out in front of Ottenbacher. So now they're going to settle back down single file as one car stuck on the outside. I believe that's Ricky Bozer in the 42 that's stuck on the high side right now as they try to settle down. Tyler King peeking to the inside there. He will get around them and bring Chad Malik with him. Behind Malik, Caden Anderson started 30th. He's knocking on the door at the top 10. He's in 11th.
He has done a very impressive job as Mann goes to the inside wall. Big crash. There goes Bozier. Gets launched across Ottenbacher. Caution flag is out. The 11 also involved. Couple hits for the 10 machine.
That was a vicious shot for Scott Mann. Let's take a look at what happened. He just clipped the wall, and before you knew it, he was snapped around. And look at Ricky Bozer just bouncing off the wall there.
Looked like Mann may have got a bit tight. Remember, he was riding that middle line much of the run. May have burned up the right front.
We were worried about that burning up the front with the extra tire wear we saw with the aero push that we saw, and there you see just the product of it as everybody just piles in there. Saw about 5 or 6 cars get caught up in that, and we were getting to the about 10-11 lap stage that we saw Stabnow have the issue. So I'm wondering what the tire temperatures might have looked like on those cars when that happened.
Looks like everyone going to come down to pit lane. Bruce Lee Weaver is our first DNF of the night as well. Scott Mann also done for the night. And to get back to that conversation, one of the things, and this is in reference to open setups, by the way, Greg, is if you have tire temps even higher than, say, 270, that is not good. Anything above 300, you're likely going to be extremely tight. It took some drivers weeks to try and get used to things with the tire model when it came out earlier this year. You do not want the tires to be that hot in any situation, or else they're going to either pop or your car's going in the fence.
And we might have just seen another case of that, as that looked almost like a mirror image to what we saw with Stabnow in the 24 in that initial one. The problem was Mann was right up in front of the pack and just collected the field. So that's a tough break, but I have a worry that we haven't seen the last of that.
Yeah, tire conservation may become the absolute king of things tonight. But the king of the field at the moment is Seth Frazier, by the way, as he's having a strong run once again. Currently, Seth Frazier with a couple wins on the season. And as we talked about, a little bit of different look for tonight. How good has Seth Frazier been this season? 3 top 10s, 2 top 5s, 2 victories. But only 7 bonus points on the campaign so far, whether it's been lean laps or most laps led or anything along those lines this campaign.
So Frazier, 2 wins on the year, trying to break back in as his luck, since those 2 wins, hasn't exactly been going his way that he would want it to. Won the race off pit road there, so he's going to be able to get a few more laps as he led a couple of laps on that first run of the race at the initial start. We'll see how it goes for him, but Seth Frazier trying to get back in and take possession with his third win of the season.
Yep. Remember, though, too, it was talked about as the first season for the Cup cars. In the overall history of Northwest Racing Series and its competitions, if Seth Frazier was to win tonight, he would tie Chris White for 5th all-time in the history of the series' competitions, with 9 career victories in the trucks, Xfinity cars, and the Cup cars. So keep that in mind as Frazier looking to try and get himself into a decent club of drivers at the end of the night.
8 wins on his career for Frazier, looking to bounce back and get another one here today in Atlanta. It'll be 3 on the year, and he likes these hot racetracks, so this kind of track with this kind of situation might just play into his favor.
By the way, the lucky dog, this caution flag, was Jeff Stabnow to get to 1 lap down. BJ Tidrick will also take the wave this time by to move himself as well to 1 lap down, with his damage was in range of getting lapped within 5-10 laps if there wasn't a caution flag. McClure does cycle now to 2 laps down because he has now parked the car along with Mann and Weaver. One to go signal on the racetrack, as you can tell, though, as Frazier, West Jr., O'Hare, Vining, Nichols, Kane, Malik, Burke, Barnes, and Anderson round out the top 10 for this restart. Greg, your thoughts?
I like what I'm seeing out of Caden Anderson so far. Started 30th with no practice on the car or on the track. Got 1 qualifying lap in. It was at half speed, 47.1. He's already up 20 positions in 33 laps. Yes, he's been dodging accidents for some of those spots, but still, you don't get 20 spots in 30 laps if you don't know what you're doing out here. I'm very impressed with what I've seen so far out of him.
Indeed, you see some of the gain positions in this race so far alone on the bottom right corner of your screen. And the past few pit stop stints, Anderson, since the last pit stop window and caution flags, gained 11 laps alone. Frazier ready to get the green flag, this time a little bit earlier. Back to the lap, how do he goes in Atlanta?
Field picking their way through the tri-oval. Frazier able to get that inside lane, and West Jr. was not able to match what he did on the initial start with Tillman, as Frazier was able to beat him there as O'Hare gets a run on the outside. Here comes Stephen O'Hare looking to try to get a lead.
O'Hare looking to the outside, trying to get clean air on the nose. Can he get the car to diamond off? No. Doesn't even hit the white line this time, trying to build up speed. Defensive line from Frazier. O'Hare forced to the top side. West Jr. follows suit.
O'Hare peaking high. West thought about going with him, but then went down to the bottom, noticing that West Jr. thought about sticking with O'Hare, but instead backed out to go to the bottom. Now he's going back with O'Hare, as West Jr. may have been kind of hanging out and seeing who got the better run off the turn. It was O'Hare. O'Hare has the nose in front through 3 and 4, but Frazier's going to come fighting back on the inside. It's a drag race to the front stretch, and O'Hare will lead the lap.
And Frazier saving a little bit, 5 miles per hour slower through 3 and 4 last time by West in the 180s. Frazier this time wants to fight back, doesn't want to get any more dirty air than he's got. The problem is West Jr. has the draft and just about got clear, and will. Frazier going to give him the spot. So Frazier conserving the tires a bit this run, more so than pushing them.
Remember, Frazier was in conversations with Stabnow after that initial incident with Stabnow, that Frazier's car was behaving the same as Stabnow, so Stabnow most likely relayed the info that said, hey, my tire was 302 degrees in the center. So Frazier probably taking that information and going, okay, I don't want to push it all out early on in a run. I want to try to save it here because we're seeing similar incidents happen since then. So Frazier probably playing the tire conservation game more than anyone right now.
Meanwhile, up in the race lead, Dan West Jr. gets his way by O'Hare, leads it back of the stripe. Still coming to 96 laps to go this upcoming time by as he tries to play the lanes. And West Jr. is really pushing on this short run, maybe letting it roll off the throttle for about half a second.
West Jr. gets the lead, clears him. O'Hare shuts the door on Frazier. Here comes Tyler King coming up in the 44. So he was able to get back up there as those three began jockeying for position. He was able to get a run and tuck onto the back of Frazier. Now he's right on the back bumper of Frazier. He's going to take a peek to the inside. Seth Frazier was leading the race at this restart, led a couple laps. Now he's going to fall possibly the fourth if Tyler King can get a good run here. But look at the exit run there by Seth Frazier.
Yeah, Seth Frazier really trying to work some of this draft, but is also trying to be mindful of the aero push. Keep in mind, Tyler King in that 44 machine, one of his first starts this season. Coming into tonight with 0 starts in 2020 in the Cup Series.
He's made 2 starts in the Truck Series. This is his Cup Series debut, and he is making it work right now. Up in the top 5, very solid run. Started 7th, up to 4th now, so not a bad debut, I'd say, so far for Tyler King. Still a long way to go, but I'm liking what I see out of this 44, and I've liked what I've seen out of him in the Truck Series as well, as he has had some pretty solid runs in the Truck Series, just hasn't been able to back up the finishes that he was looking for, but 3 starts in the Northwest Series for him, and 3 very good starts. Just the finish is left leaving a little bit to be desired.
Look at your biggest movers so far. The gainers in green, the droppers in yellow. Plus 22. You're reading that right for Anderson. He's trying to make it a plus 23 as he tries to peek underneath Gary Nichols and Malik and a couple other drivers. But you said you were impressed about him. He's giving a lot of fans good reason to be impressed with him, with how quickly he's cut through this field.
Caden Anderson has been one of the top iRacers in the Northwest for quite some time as you're on board with him, looking at Chad Malik, trying to get a run. So impressed with what he's been able to do today. Started 30th to 8th, trying to get 7th now. Was thinking 3 wide for a minute there as well with Gary Nichols up there, as it looks like he may get the spot from Chad Malik. What an impressive run for Caden Anderson in the 37 here early.
Him and his spotter, Bart Hector Jr., working together to cut their way through the traffic. Again, this is the fight for 7th position, as Malik not giving it up without a fight. Also keep in mind Brian Barnes watching as well in the wings and giving a bit of a push to the back end of Malik. That 4 machine was the fastest car in practice. Up towards the front though, O'Hare side by side with Frazier. They've been going back and forth for the past 3 laps.
Frazier on the outside now, getting a run on O'Hare. Let's see what the gap is. Just 0.02 of a second between them at the line that time by Tyler King and James Vining, hanging there in the catbird seat, just waiting for something to happen. Gary Nichols has also been able to break away from Malik and Anderson to tack onto the back of Vining. We have a 6-car breakaway now at the front as Frazier is able to clear O'Hare into turn number 3, give him 2nd, and now he's going back after West. So Seth Frazier might like what he feels right now, but remember, we are creeping up on that 10-lap range, and this is where we start seeing the tire issues with the right front.
We are reaching that top 10-lap stage. In fact, 14 total laps on the stints for these drivers since the pit stops under the caution flag. Once again, Frazier making that top line work, and this is the best I've seen the top line work, to be honest, here at Atlanta, Greg, since early in 2019 with this package first made its debut on iRacing. Really impressive job by these drivers tonight to make it work down the back straightaway.
It's working really well here, and trying to see how this unfolds as we are closing in now on that longest run of the race thus far as the field settles down single file.
Absolutely, these drivers now approaching that longest run. Already you see the backdrop, a couple of them nearly drifted up towards the wall, in fact. One other was on the apron a little bit there at the back of the field, in fact. That is Steve Jennings and Timothy Ricketts Jr. who are off the pace.
Jennings in the 111 off the pace here after some contact, perhaps, as it looks like he may have a little bit of damage, perhaps, as he tries to get things going. Yeah, some damage on the right rear there, and Ricketts with some damage as well, also at the rear of the car. Ooh, they almost get together going into turn 1. Jennings had to back out of it a lot there.
And part of the reason some of the emotions might have came into play is last lap, Ricketts Jr. was hit in the left rear quarter panel by Ricky Bozer, and then Jennings ended up hitting that 43 to give him that left rear damage, and now both of them are off the pace, in fact, in the 160s in miles per hour. Again, the leaders still in the 180s. Corey Walters also coming in, this time by down the pit lane. Back to the leaders, though. They're still single file in the choo-choo train.
And the train has got more cars as Malik and Anderson settled down. So now we have a single file break here for quite a few cars as West Jr., he pulled a little bit further ahead of Seth Frazier, and Frazier might be able to get a good run on him. And yes, he will. You see right there on corner exit just how much having the drafting help is affecting this, as Frazier was able to pull right back up to the bumper of West Jr., but not able to get a move as West Jr. went on the defense, and he made the car a little bit wide through the trioval. I noticed he was trying to follow where Frazier was going and set the car in that position. So West Jr. going on defense right now.
Yes, indeed. I think he might feel like if Frazier gets a run to take away that clean air, he might feel Frazier might be better. Remember, though, Frazier has been saving to deal with that right front tire that's popped up for some others. This time really let off the gas. Couldn't get to the bottom, though. O'Hare just can't take advantage. Back down the back straightaway they go. As you mentioned, lots of drivers in this choo-choo train. The top 11 separated by just 2 seconds on the track.
We're seeing right now they're still pulling away from the rest of the field. As you mentioned, 11 drivers in this breakaway. The tail end is Brian Barnes, but look who's creeped up into the top 10. We haven't mentioned him yet so far in the race. Sean Brightsman, who makes a habit out of starting mid-pack and just slowly and methodically working his way up. He has crept up into the top 10 as well.
The question's going to be, how well has he saved the tires compared to the average past 5 laps? He is dead even with everybody else in the pack. Had the fastest lap with the help of the draft last time by as well. Corey Walters has also left the race. He is done for tonight. While second started heating up a bit, O'Hare tried to peek underneath Frazier, and Frazier cut off the front nose at the head of the group.
So Frazier goes on defense to keep O'Hare at bay. West Jr. was able to pull away quite a bit there. So now we're going to see exactly what this draft does as Frazier leads the train down the back stretch into 3 and 4. O'Hare, King, Vining rounded out the top 5. How about Gary Nichols having a solid run up there in 6? Chad Malik, Caden Anderson, Brett Johnson, and Sean Brightsman all tacked on as well. Brian Barnes a little bit further back. He was in trouble of losing the draft there, and he still might be, as he is really struggling to keep up with Brightsman. Meanwhile, off of turn number 2, Wes is doing a good job keeping these guys at bay right now, as he's still 0.4 of a second ahead at the last time they crossed the strike, and it doesn't look like much has changed.
It looks like the fresh air is starting to definitely come into play after some of the fighting here for second and third, because West Jr. has set sail now by 0.4 of a second. Here's the downside, though. With how much draft comes into a factor, it's hard to break away. It's also, at the same time, these drivers, if they fight any longer than, say, a half a lap to a full lap, they might have a hard time reeling back in West Jr. over the course of a run.
Because we've seen that time and time again. You fight if you go fighting side by side, you risk losing touch with that draft, and before you know it, you're in a spot now where you can no longer catch the draft off the tail end of the car in front of you. And we might have seen that with Brian Barnes, because I saw he was side by side in the back with Sean Brightsman, but now he's been able to close back up as the field began slicing and dicing in front of him. And that's the advantage there of being behind the draft. If they get slicing and dicing in front of you, you're able to draft back up, as Brett Johnson and Sean Brightsman went to battle for the 9th position. Barnes was able to reel back in. So the draft being very, very important here, both for staying in front and for catching back on as the caution flies.
Caution at the very back of the field involves Daryl Tidrick and Ricky Bozier. The 45 machine hit the backstretch wall, as you'll see on the LSR TV replay, and the 42 collected in a second incident.
Tidrick bounced off the wall, came down, bounced off again, and unfortunately nowhere for Bozer to go in the 42. So Bozer definitely not having the day he wanted. That's a tough break for Tidrick as well, as he's had some good runs in this Cup Series over the last few races, just not the way he wanted it to go.
That was the longest run of the race, more than 20 plus laps on the run. But now, once again, pit stop's about to get back underway. Here's the concern, though, if you're the strategist. If it goes green from here, we are not in the fuel window, Greg.
Not quite so far, so we're still going to see one more stop, even if we go green. We'll see how it all unfolds here. No doubt everyone's taking 4 tires and they're going to top off on fuel. So Seth Frazier, he's in second right now, was able to win the race off pit road from this position last time. We'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. Once again, to reset your top 5 for the pit stops, West Jr., Frazier, O'Hare, King, and Vining have moved away to the field. As pit stops get underway, we have the 42 machine. Ricky Bozer now joining us in the broadcast booth. Ricky, what happened from your perspective?
Looked like the guy in front of me just got loose and whacked the wall a few times and came right down on me.
Unfortunate, that's your second incident tonight. At this point, what's kind of the situation now with no front nose in that car?
Yeah, it's going to be rough. I got a lot of damage. I've already used my fast repair, so it's been a rough night for me tonight.
Are you going to keep in the race, keep going on the racetrack to get as best points as you can, or where do you go from here?
Yeah, I'll ride it out as long as I can, as long as I'm out of people's way.
Anyone you want to think or anything else you want to add before we let you get back to racing on the track?
I'd like to thank the guys who run the league. You guys do a great job doing the LSR TV thing.
Thank you very much for the time. Unfortunate luck tonight. Ricky Bozer currently getting some repairs done in his race car. I'd like to thank him for taking the time to speak with us for the next moment or so. Dan West Jr. was the first man off the pit lane. Should note, Hutchison did try and stay out to get a bonus point on that previous window. The tire heat not as bad on Anderson. That's one of the main keys, I think, that's popping in. 258 is what's being reported from that pit box at the moment. Here's the problem. Anderson really deep in the field after a bad pit stop sequence.
So Anderson was up in the top 10. He's going to settle down in the 14th position, it appears, when it's all said and done. Not sure what happened with the 37 car, but he's got to make up a bunch of the spots that he just got back. So that's going to be tough for Anderson, but we know that the 37 car has a lot of speed, so not too concerned about that. And with 4 fresh tires, you know he's going to feel relatively good about it, but Anderson, they are keeping an eye on the tire temps in that 37 pit because they are aware that that was probably what was the cause of the first 2 yellows. So they're keeping an eye on it. But Anderson right now in good shape relatively tire-wise, but now he's got his work cut out for him.
Absolutely. Was just taking a listen on my end of things. Might have got stuck in neutral in the pit box. Reason it took him an extra 6 seconds to get out of the stall. And now, as we talked about, we'll have to try and gain some track position back. Lucky Dog was Jeff Stabnow. He's also back on the lead lap. In total, only BJ Tidrick is a lap down and still running in the race. But the race off the pit road seen West Jr., Frazier, O'Hare, King, Vining, Breitzman, Nichols, Johnson, White, Malik come out on the top 10. One to go this time, Greg.
So we'll see how this restart goes. Remember, Frazier and West Jr. have been on the front row for pretty much the entirety of the restarts, with O'Hare right there with them pretty much every time. So we'll see how it unfolds, and I'm very curious to see the 32 and the 41 specifically, what these 2 guys do, because we know what West Jr. is going to do on the restart. It's all going to depend on how Frazier is able to get down and see if he can get down in front of that 41 car.
Remember the fuel window tonight. 60 to 62 laps is the realistic window, depending on how much draft you have, meaning we are still a good 12 plus green flag laps away from making it on a single tank of fuel. Ricketts Jr. will start at the end of the longest long. Pardon me, check that. As the drivers will get ready for the green flag this time by West Jr. back in control. He set sail in the mid-run last time. We'll see how he can do this time on the short run. iRacing pace car is off. Green flag is out.
West Jr., of course, getting that good run that we've seen so many times out of him on the restart. Here we see O'Hare and Frazier going side by side. Does not look like Frazier's going to be able to get down in front of him as O'Hare gets in front of him through 1 and 2. But Frazier is able to get down in front of Vining, who is still side by side with Tyler King. The inside lane trying to move up 1 spot each. Vining trying to get up to the 4th spot.
Here comes the draft effect. Some of the drivers already side by side for the race lead. O'Hare to the inside, really had to let off the gas. Give space to West Jr. as Frazier now looks to make the outside work again.
Frazier able to get him at the line just barely 1/100th of a second the distance as they cross the line, but O'Hare not going away. He was trying to get the lead and just had to check up just a little bit, and that allowed Frazier to get a run on the outside through 3 and 4. Tyler King is broken away from James Vining, and he is tacking on to the back bumpers of O'Hare and Frazier. So King now trying to make up and make this a 4-car breakaway.
Absolutely right now. Frazier, remember, made this top line work the best out of anybody so far tonight. The problem is O'Hare is not backing off this run. Had to get off the gas for corner apex as he squeezes up. Frazier gets the run off the corner. And O'Hare looks like he's going to sacrifice the position. Yes, as the more he stays down there, the more he burns up the tire.
So Frazier able to get down in front of O'Hare, and this will settle down and look exactly like it did before the caution came out. West, Frazier, O'Hare, King, Vining, your top 5. Brightsman moving up though has gotten another spot in the 7th as he is now going to try to reel in Gary Nichols and try to tack on to this draft and bring up the train once again as the field works their way down the backstretch into turn 3. West Jr. continues to lead, but we're keeping an eye now on the 46 of Brightsman as he begins his slow charge back up to the top 5. He's up to 7th in the LSR-TV Toyota.
Such a beautiful metallic purple machine. Back was one of the quickest drivers last time by. The quickest lap was set by Frazier in 2nd place. Currently has about 3 car lengths, the gap between him and Gary Nichols. He's been playing it very conservative so far. Speaking of Nichols, remember he did have a bit of that contact early on. Still has not elected to take the faster pair, but the damage hasn't been slowing him down on that left side.
So it's doing a good job keeping it at speed here as the battle breaks out once again. O'Hare taking a peek low on Frazier. Tyler King right there. We'll see who he goes with as O'Hare almost clears Frazier, but coming back on the outside is Frazier. No! O'Hare able to shut the door, but Frazier pulls a crossover. O'Hare though throws a block. And Justin, do you think it's a little too early to be making a block like that, especially with what we've seen with the tire wear?
Possibly, especially with how difficult it can be with the dirty air as well. If you heat up these tires, O'Hare looks like he's prioritizing trying to keep up with West Jr. on the short run this time. Frazier elects to back off. A little bit of a bubble, in fact. Tyler King trying to make a peek now to the top 3. He takes the run to the bottom side. Frazier, though, not letting him have it as easily, though, hitting the gas really hard on the high side.
Remember, this is Tyler King's Cup Series debut, and he's riding up in the 4th spot, trying to break onto the podium. Not this time at the strike, as Frazier barely able to keep him at bay, but he will get the nose in front going into turn number 1, and Frazier will pull in behind. Tyler King passes the Tiger King.
Seth Exotic Frazier looks to make an exotic move back to the inside in the Ford Mustang. Tries to get some clean air on the nose for corner entry, but King cuts him off. Now they might have to focus on what's ahead because they lost 0.4 of a second to the back end of O'Hare. O'Hare closing in quickly for the lead.
O'Hare able to get on the back bumper of West Jr., getting that draft, but this is now allowing Tyler King to get into a position where he might be able to pull up on the back bumper of those two as they work their way down the backstretch. Don't look now. Sean Brightsman picked up another spot. He got around Chad Malik, I believe it was, his or no, Brightsman, I'm sorry, I misread that. He was able to get around Nichols, but Nichols came back on the outside, but now Brightsman goes back to work on the inside, and Brightsman able to get the spot at the line that time, but Nichols comes fighting back once again. Brightsman did have the 6th spot a moment ago, but Nichols was able to get it back, but now Brightsman goes back to work again.
Brightsman nearly got clear, had a bit of a bobble coming off the corner, should get clear this time. Look who's trying to take advantage of this. The Amsoil machine of Chris White now looks to try and get the draft off the LSR TV machine. Just couldn't take advantage, couldn't carry enough speed to the bottom underneath Nichols.
White now going to fall in behind Nichols, and Chad Malik going to work behind White as he takes a peek on the outside. Brett Johnson, Caden Anderson back there. Anderson hasn't gained any more ground after restarting in the 13th position. He got 2 spots initially and just hasn't pushed it since. So Anderson probably just riding right now, taking care of those tires for the long run. Carl Burke, the tail end, he's the caboose on this train right now as they go side by side again. Malik and White, and Brett Johnson had to check up as Malik was throwing a block on Johnson, and that allows Anderson to get around Johnson, move Anderson back into the top 10.
A pucker up moment for the Coca-Cola machine as that went on. O'Hare, he's closed the gap to under 0.2 of a second. Tried to make a move last time by, but the question's going to be here, Greg. How do you play this if you're O'Hare? Do you still elect to be patient, save some tires, especially with the dirty air, or do you try and jump for the clean air as quick as you can and take the run if you get it?
If I'm O'Hare, I'm going to take the run if I get it, but I'm not going to push the envelope too much because we've seen the tire wear, especially when you get into that air push situation that he would be in right now with all that dirty air. It can bite you if you try to experiment with it too much. So if the opportunity presents itself, by all means go for it. But if I'm O'Hare, I'm not exactly pushing the envelope.
Right in front of him, by the way, West Jr. pushed up the racetrack. O'Hare didn't push up quite as much as you see from the back end of West Jr. And just see how much this draft helps down the straightaways. The clean air is really beneficial for the corners, but the amount of draft you can get because of that big spoiler really factors in down these straightaways. O'Hare just about took it to the back end of the Chevrolet Camaro in front of him.
O'Hare trying to pull the 41 up there. Classic Ford versus Chevy battle right now breaking out here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. A Chevy Camaro leading 2 Ford Mustangs around the 1.5 mile Atlanta Motor Speedway. But O'Hare taking a peek right now. It's a 3-horse breakaway at the front, and Frazier kind of pulling away from Vining just a little bit as Brightsman goes to work on Vining, and this could ultimately not work out for Frazier because he was far enough back that I don't know if he was able to catch on to the draft of Tyler King, so now he might be riding by himself if Vining and Brightsman don't settle down.
Yeah, that could be an absolute concern. Here's what's happening behind them, though. Anderson and Johnson. And Anderson now up to 9th position. Remember, him and his spotter and crew chief for tonight have really been conservative on that right front tire. And it's been one of the main benefits for him being quick past 10 laps in a run.
And we've seen it. Anderson was one of the stronger cars on the long run. He was able to get around Chad Malik and bring Brett Johnson with him. Remember, it was Malik throwing the block on Johnson that allowed Anderson to get around Johnson in the first place. Anderson riding in the 9th position right now, trying to get up onto the back bumper of Chris White.
And a technical issue, by the way, for Brett Johnson. Just lost him a ton of time back to 12th position. That's why he vanished towards that battle with Anderson. He lost about 1/8 of a racetrack distance. He's now on his own in 12th position because of the issue you just seen.
Yeah, I was in the process of talking about Anderson. All of a sudden, next thing I knew, Brett Johnson was not on my screen anymore. And that's just another thing you have to worry about with this is you're so focused on having a race going right now with yourself and another car that if something like that happens, all of a sudden you have to back out of the throttle just to try to recover and see what's going on, and you lose all that track position.
Frazier nearly pancaked the outside wall in front of Brightsman, Nichols, and Vining. And now Vining falling 1 position, fighting with Nichols, and Brightsman's now in the top 5. So the tire work coming into play, and you're seeing the drivers who have been saving starting to charge.
Brightsman taking a peek inside of Frazier, making quick work out of him as the battle is breaking out for the lead as well.
West Jr. forced up to the top side. O'Hare looking to dive his way by for the race lead. Coming up 55 laps to go as the 55 car slides up the circuit. The 41 of O'Hare. He'll lead at the stripe this time by.
O'Hare getting the lead for the time being. But West Jr. coming fighting back on the outside. King pulling right up on the back bumper of O'Hare. That is allowing the 55 of West to get a run back. Here he comes on the outside.
And West really slams the gas on corner entry way up the racetrack. Up towards the marbles and out of the rubber. Move back O'Hare into the lead. Here comes Tyler King to try and take the move. King this time can't make it work on the bottom side. As West Jr. still tries to hold on to second. Look who's in the fight. It's Brightsman. Brightsman's now the fastest car on the track.
Brightsman was able to pull up with those leaders jockeying for position, back and forth, back and forth. Brightsman was able to make quick work to get up there, pulling away from Frazier. Now he's tucked in behind Tyler King, trying to get him up to second place. King will have it at the line by just a couple of thousandths of a second as O'Hare leading the way. Tyler King up as high as he's been so far today in the second spot with help from Brightsman, who's also up as high as he's been all day. Dan Stussy has retired from the race, but Brightsman trying to make a run right now.
So as you talked about there in RDMF, that makes in total now 5 on the night. But West Jr., he's stuck on the top side and really must have burned up the tires in the short run. Brightsman must have really saved. He's now going for a plus 15 if he can get clear. Just take a look how much dirt is built up in rubber on these cars. The West Jr. from all that clean air, nearly clean. Everybody else covered in marbles. West Jr. trying to fight on that top side as West Jr. falls back to third. Here comes Brightsman. Now for the top three. O'Hare has ran away by more than 0.3 of a second, and West Jr. is now forced to save. This has turned into a bit of a disaster now for West Jr. Quick on the short run. Might not have saved for the mid to long run, and he's quickly dropping back. This is all allowing Frazier, Vining, Nichols, and the rest of the group to close back in. Under 50 laps to go for those tuning in for the Northwest Cup Series here on LSR TV. To reset, O'Hare, King, Brightsman, West Jr., Frazier, the top 5. Nichols, Vining, Anderson in the top 8. White and Malik round out the top 10 on the racetrack. As they continue to try and fight up in front of them, Brightsman, one of the biggest movers of the night, now looking to move to second in the 46. And that Toyota Camry makes quick work of Tyler King to make the move. He was the quickest car on the racetrack by 1/10 of a second last time by. Here's the problem. He needs to close in half a second plus on the back end of O'Hare's car.
Big lead right now. Brightsman trying to close in, and he's pulling away from Tyler King, so that's going to make it a little bit more difficult because now he doesn't have the drafting help, and I believe he is too far away from the back bumper of O'Hare to catch his draft, so he's going to probably have to back up to King and West Jr. and company to try to get a run at O'Hare, who has pulled away.
Remember, though, Brightsman's really saved these tires, it appears, throughout this entire run. He was being patient, was being calm, wasn't pushing the issue. It's now really helping. He's closed 1/10 of a second since that last sentence.
So Brightsman beginning to close the gap a little bit, perhaps, as he's trying to reel in O'Hare. And O'Hare might have gone into conservation mode now that he has a nice lead. He might be going into tire conservation mode to try to hang on to the car for the remainder of this run.
Indeed, and now into the draft, in fact, is Brightsman. By the way, lap traffic ahead. BJ Tigrick is about 15 car lengths in front of these drivers.
So lap traffic beginning to come into play, perhaps for the first time so far today, as we have Brian Barnes on pit road. Looks like we may be starting our green flag pit stops here, Justin.
Remember, a decent run, more than 30 plus laps, give or take, on the stint, including the caution flag. So Barnes is banking on it staying green the rest of the way. Remember, they can't make it on fuel by a good 10-12 green flag laps to the end of the checkered flag. That's the estimate some of the drivers made for tonight. Some of them may be able to stretch it a little bit longer, but that is a major if. Still, though, Brightsman trying to close in slowly but surely as a car in the grass. On the bottom of the racetrack, Tidrick tried to move out of the way, nearly slid up the track in the grass. And that almost looked like something broke on the 72 more than anything.
Yeah, he might have just shot down a little bit, trying to get out of the way, and just overshot, and that caused something to break on the 72 as he's on pit road now. As meanwhile, look up front, Sean Brightsman is catching up to Stephen O'Hare. Brightsman might be making a run for the lead here soon.
You've seen in the backdrop as well, West Jr. made quick work on Tyler King. Seth Frazier has also made a pass right on by as well in that process. BJ Tidrick has also made his way to the pit lane. Wow, Brightsman tries to make the move, and the window indeed is open. There go two of the teammates down to the pit lane. So it looks like they're going to try and split it up the middle. In fact, going for the short pit stop strategy, Greg.
So they're going for the short pit here as they're trying to split it up here, like you mentioned. And Tillman, the pole sitter, he restarted this last run in the 13th position, so he's trying to work his way back up, working together with Dylan Huffines on this same pit strategy here. We'll see how it unfolds. As meanwhile, the battle continuing to break out as Brightsman's still trying to get around O'Hare.
Brightsman looking to take the lead for the first time tonight. O'Hare up on the top side. They pulled away by a full second in this long run as the pit window opens. Brightsman looks to get the clean air on the bottom side. O'Hare pushes up the track, still stuck side by side. One of the more throwing battles of the night so far. The OSR TV machine clips the apron this time. O'Hare gets the run. He's back clear on the top side for the lead. As this has gone on to Greg, one thing to note, Gary Nichols, technical issue from the top 10 off the racetrack. And that will have a shakeup of the point standings as he is now gone off the circuit as the lead sees O'Hare scrape the wall. And the more they fight here on this racetrack, the more Dan West Jr. reels his way back in. He's gained 0.4 of a second. Listen in on Brightsman as he tries to hunt down the lead again. And you can just see how focused that Toyota Camry is to try and close in. They will have traffic ahead. Frank Harris went all the way to the bottom of the racetrack in slow motion and is now a factor in this battle. Still 38 laps to go here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. The throwing battle continuing on as Tyler King now looks to try and retake fourth position and pushes up. And James Vining also way on the bottom of the racetrack as well. He's now off the pace and taking a very early pit entry off of turn number 3. So the 333 machine coming in this time. So is Tyler King. And King hits the yellow cone for goodness sake. So some of the undercut strategies continue for many of these competitors. And remember, the amount of fall off similar to what was seen in the Truck Series, two total seconds in the span of about 40 laps on the run. The lead though, Brightsman gets a major run through turn 4. He takes the lead for the first time today. Look who's joined the fight as well though, Dan West Jr. He dives his way back to the inside line once more. Can he take advantage of the fighting he's been saving for the past 20 laps? Back on the bottom side, O'Hare. He tries to go for the crossover. Brightsman forced up to the top side one of the few times this run. West Jr. tries to follow the faster car. Will he take advantage? He tries to floor it back into the Toyota Camry. West Jr. looking really impressive now in the late going to this run. O'Hare might have burned up his stuff trying to make a pass and trying to keep up and pulling away. West Jr. back up to second position. Now 33 to go this upcoming time by. The pit window is noted to be wide open. You see it on the left side of your screen. Chris White has just pit from the top 10 this time by. So it becomes now the big question, who will stay out and try to stretch the fuel and beg for a caution flag? None of the drivers inside the top 4 have pit so far. Everybody else has had their position shuffled. Anderson up to 5th with pit stops. Brett Johnson now joins the pit stop party this time. And Jeff Stabnow has also done an impressive job this run to close in. You see the pit stop times on the left side of your screen, the pit stop stint specifically. The last time they came down, keep in mind, a lot of these drivers have gone a long time on their pit stop stints, about 44 plus laps. Others just coming out of the pit stop window. Others like Tillman are already 10 laps in on the pit stop window. Also in the pit lane this time, John Ottenbacher, Carl Burke, Chad Malik. Very crucial time of this race, and now with one of the LSR TV machines in, is the question of when do some of the other ones come in this time. One thing to note, Gary Nichols has come in this time, back on the racetrack, and Chris White is wrecked. Caution is out after the 83 clipped the apron and spun across the track coming off of his pit stop. What a major mistake as he tried to arc it right at the transition of the banking on the apron, spins right across the circuit and smushes his front nose in. No one else involved, and this changes a lot. Sean Brightsman now the leader, and they do not have to pit under the green flag. So all of them keep their track position or gain gobs of it. From the time of the caution flag, everybody else was pinned either one lap down, just got the lucky dog back, or in the case of Barnes, just past the leaders before the caution flag. Everybody else is in a position where they may have to take the wave around here with 29 laps to go this upcoming time by. Everyone ducking down to the pit lane this time by. 4 tires and fuel, the name of the game. It becomes the question, Who elects to take the wave around and who elects to try and hope for the lucky dog? Those are the gambles. Tillman was in the lucky dog spot, and Brightsman barely over the edge of the front of the pit box. May have just got in service. In fact, has to back it up. This is going to be costly for the 46. At least 5 seconds until he can get back into reverse to take his right side tires. Question's going to be, will West Jr. take advantage of this to take the lead off the pit lane? Up at the front of the lane, O'Hare and West Jr. had a drag race. O'Hare came out in first, and Brightsman will come out as one of the final cars on the lead lap off the pit lane. Sean, first things first, what happened in the pit lane just now?
The driver got a little aggressive there and slid the tires there, slid through his box, couldn't get into reverse. So just one of those deals where the driver's trying to get all he could and keep it out in front.
So it'll put you back in 5th position, but I want to ask you this. You cut your way through the field on that long run. Were you saving the tires, and if so, how aggressively were you saving?
Yeah, I was saving, I would say probably 75%. I don't think I was running too hard. I think I've got a lot of tire for the next 27, 28 laps. I won't need to save as much, so I think we'll be pretty good.
How would you describe the racing so far around you tonight? How well do you feel it's been racing tonight, this package, in 2020?
It's racing really good. I mean, obviously we're here at Atlanta where it comes down to tire strategy and fuel strategy, but all the drivers here in the Northwest are given a ton of room, or if not given a ton of room, racing nice side by side. And I mean, there's a lot of give and take. Nice to see the outside line move, and Stefan passed me on that.
Yeah, indeed. Now comes the question here. What's your strategy now? Coming to 27 laps to go, looking like it may be a 26-lap shootout to the checkered.
I think my strategy is still to save. About 10, 12 laps in. If we get a caution before that, I'll probably start raising up the aggression pedal, and but I think for the most part, I'm gonna try to save at least for the first 10, 15. I'll make my way as long as I'm close.
Anyone you want to thank before we let you go? Anything you want to say before we let you focus on the drive to the front?
Just gotta thank LSR TV for broadcasting us, sponsoring this Toyota Camry. Gotta thank Central Welding Supply, and then gotta thank everybody here at the Northwest Racing Series for so far putting on a great show, and hopefully it's going to get a ton better here.
Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
Want to go signal on the racetrack. Thanks again to Sean Brightsman for checking in with us and allowing him to check in with him as we get ready for the restart this upcoming time by Wave Around Cars, where BJ Tidrick, Dylan Huffines, John Onnenbacher, Carl Berg, Gary Nichols, Daryl Tidrick, Chad Malik, James Vining, Tyler King, Dan Lowther, Brett Johnson, Jeff Stabnow, Frank Harris, Steve Jennings, Stephen Paulison. Everybody else was on the lead lap, so they don't have to put an extra fuel. They have the freshest tires, let's put it that way, in the field, Greg.
So we'll see how this all unfolds here. Closing stages of this one. O'Hare leading the way. West Jr. on the outside. Frazier, Anderson up into the 4th spot with Brightsman in 5th.
O'Hare ready to take the green flag. How aggressive will these drivers be? A 26-lap shootout to the finish. O'Hare with an early jump. Green flag's back out.
So O'Hare using that inside lane to his advantage. Look at Anderson pull.
Oh, caution flag. Trouble in the back of the field. Daryl Tidrick spun around to the back end. What happened? It almost looked like he went right across the nose of Chad Malik. Remember, he was a wave around car. That might be the case of old tires there, Greg.
Could be, because we've seen the old tires just pay, but the new tires pay dividends so much that something like that goes wrong, and it's easy for the drivers to just lose it, and suddenly we have another restart.
He had 17 laps on that stint of tires, by the way, Daryl Tidrick did, when he tried to get going on that restart. So, good Good news if you took the wave around, you get fresh tires on this caution flag. Bad news if you didn't, you're one of 3 drivers a lap down. John Annenbacher likely going to be the lucky dog to make it 18 cars in the lead lap. Johnson and Harris, however, elected to try and stay on the lap down cycle despite the wave around situations and how much they lost time in the pits. So this shakes things up a little bit. We'll have to see how this is going to go.
Closing stages of this one here at Atlanta. Stephen O'Hare has gotten out to the lead. Seth Frazier was able to get past West Jr. for second with that inside lane working the way that it has seen, or we've seen it so many times. So jumbling continuing there in the top 3 there, Justin.
Absolutely. O'Hare again had that good launch, but the bottom side has been the line you want to be on all night for the green flags, especially if you're in the second row tonight. As we expected, by the way, 11 on back did come down to the pit lane and take for tires and fuel for the most part. Well, unless you're Jeff Stabnow, who took 2 tires for some reason.
Interesting call there by Stabnow to take the 2 tires, Justin. Remember, he was up at the front at the start of the race and got shuffled back and had to make his way back up onto the lead lap. So not sure what the strategy call there is on the 24.
See if we can try and get an answer to that question in a little bit. He is in 13th position, by the way, now with that call. He was one of the drivers, remember, who also took the wave around. So these drivers still line up now, 23 laps to go. But with that quick caution flag, look who's in 4th position. Caden Anderson in a good position, and Brian Barnes up to 5th.
So we're seeing the drivers who started near the back slowly beginning to make their way to the front. And how about Caden Anderson? We can't talk about this enough. Started in 30th position, is now up in 4th, trying to make it up for the win.
Absolutely here. So who else is catching your eye tonight in terms of how they've been racing performance-wise?
Oh, you got to talk about Breitzman in the 46, who has been slowly, methodically, very calculated with his moves, getting up from the 18th starting position to move up into the top 5. Led a little bit before the last caution, not this caution, but the caution before, was able to lead a little bit before that came out. So Breitzman's been very slow, very methodical, getting his way through the field and has worked his way up. He's in 6th now. He's in a good position to pounce.
By the way, what may have went under the radar for those keeping track of the left side of your screen in that ticker? Bit of a head scratcher. Remember James Viney took the wave around, Greg? He elected not to take the free tires after the quick yellow.
Interesting. I am not sure.
Near to Carl Berg.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the thought process is there with them. If it was me in the situation with tires, I would be taking them as often as I possibly could.
Those drivers, 10 lap stint in total for Burko right now. Might have been one of the drivers who had just came up the pit road, remember. James Vining, though, has an extra 5 laps on his stint. That might come back towards the other direction on the long run, so keep that in mind, especially more so for Vining. Carl Burke might be in a decent situation since he was in about a lap or so, give or take, on his tires and already had them up to heat when he took the wave around. But about to get back on a green, 21 now laps to go from Atlanta. O'Hare, Frazier, West Jr., Anderson, Barnes, Breitzman, Ricketts Jr., Hutchinson, Burke, and Vining round out your top 10 this time. Buckle up your seatbelts. We're about to go for a ride. To the green flag this time they go, here from Hampton, Georgia.
O'Hare will lead him to the line. Frazier to his outside. We go green at Atlanta.
And a good launch this time for O'Hare. Frazier this time already ducking down to the bottom. Best start by anybody on the top side since the initial start of the race. West Jr., though, forced to shove off Anderson. Looks like the best start by the top line all night.
Yeah, great job by Frazier to hang there with O'Hare. And there you see it going to the outside now of the 41. Seth Frazier has been really doing a good job on that outside lane, making it work and sticking with the field as he comes through now. Now taking a peek on the inside here, Justin, as we make our way through the field. Frazier taking a peek high now back low. Frazier looks like he's trying anything but riding behind the 41 for the time being.
Last time down the back straightaway, there was an aggressive block. This time, O'Hare doesn't go for the block. Frazier gives a shot to the left rear of the back bumper. Tries to take the higher arc, gets a bit of a space. Can he diamond it off the corner for the run is the question to the bottom side. O'Hare slides up. This time gives Frazier the bottom side by side for the lead.
Frazier taking a peek inside of O'Hare. Anderson taking a peek inside of West, but West is able to shut the door. Brightsman has gotten back around Barnes and moved him back into the top 5. Frazier leads the way. Did O'Hare catch the wall, or did he just come super close?
Might have got super close, but in fact he did tap the wall. Has right front damage on the 41. Right above the fender. Dan West Jr. trying to take advantage for second, all while Brightsman's trying to save and Anderson's trying to also save right behind all of this. There's that crinkle for O'Hare on the right front. Going to be a minor factor the rest of the way.
And that's going to kill his straightaway speed when he gets into a situation not like this where he's tucked in behind West Jr. as the car hits the wall behind him as they fan out. We stay green. But this could kill the straightaway speed for O'Hare if he gets into a situation where he doesn't have a car in front of him, doesn't have any drafting help. That could be a big problem with the 41 if this race stays green the rest of the way.
There was a lot of trouble in the backdrop. You just referenced it. Casey Tillman, Scott Hutchinson got together after Stabnell ended up getting to the left rear of Tillman after Ricketts Jr. bounced off. Everybody bounced around last time by through 1 and 2. Still stay green though. That's why the pack's so spread out now in the backdrop of the lead grouping. As you see Stabnell currently trying to make his way from the 11th position.
Stabnell trying to make his way back up. Out for the lead, breaking out once again. Dan West Jr. got him past Frazier, and 37 Anderson right behind him. Here we go, side by side for the lead. Closing stages of Atlanta. Anderson thought about going through the middle there, but he tucks in behind West Jr., and this allows Frazier to get a run into turn 3.
Anderson gave West Jr. a shot. Frazier trying to give the squeeze. Higher up the racetrack, trying to bank it off the corner. West Jr., though, leads it up the stripe just by a razor's edge, 6/1000ths of a second. Still Anderson looking to draft as West Jr. floors it to get clear.
West Jr. back to the lead. Here comes Frazier on the outside. West was not quite able to get him fully cleared, and Frazier comes fighting back on the outside. Caden Anderson going with him now on the outside. 2 of the iRacing.com Northwest Tour guys trying to get back around Dan West Jr. right now. Here comes Anderson with a peek to the bottom as they almost get shuffled up by the lap car of Gary Nichols. Seth Frazier now taking a peek to the inside.
That was Gary Nichols, who was being a factor in this lead group, forced everyone up the middle line. This time, though, Frazier slides up. West Jr. with a good run on the top side. Frazier tries to side draft hard. Last time it sent him to the wall. This time it sent him to the bottom. With trouble behind them. A huge slide for the 333. Tillman hits the wall. We stay green.
But we are not going to stay green for long because Seth Frazier, the race leader, slid up right as that happened, and he spun out and collected the field behind him.
A big one. Frazier sent it hard, and if we go back just a touch bit further, you're going to see how hard he sent it. Absolutely floored it into the door of West Jr. It ends up collecting multiple drivers, including Huffines.
Here we see John Ottenbacher shooting down pit road. Man, oh man, right as the incident happened behind him, Seth Frazier, the leader, spun out. Well, he's going for the lead, got collected with West Jr. West Jr. was able to continue. Frazier unfortunately spun out. I think those tires may have just been getting too much wear on them.
So a big-time incident at a big-time moment. Here's another look. Barnes involved, Burke involved. Just about many of the drivers, about 6th on back involved. Many of them just got through that.
Great job by the field to get through that as the field pits. So we'll see now how this all unfolds. I believe West Jr. came in on the pit road, perhaps with some damage from the 32. That allows Anderson to stay out and get the lead.
Remember, a fast repair is available to these drivers. It looks like plenty of them may use it. Remember, though, Frazier used his early on in the race because of his incident with the left side wall. So he's going to have to get damage repairs done. Take him out of the conversation for the lead. West Jr. was the first man off the pit lane, but Anderson and Jennings stayed out.
So we'll see how it all goes. Caden Anderson must be thinking, hey, we're at a point in the race where that run was just a few laps. Anderson might be thinking he has enough to hold on if enough other drivers stay out. Unfortunately for him, only one other driver stayed out, so it'll be interesting to see how this one unfolds.
Well, they're stuck on the strategy too, Greg, since if they pit now, they'd be deep in the field. Here's the problem. Tire spin can be huge in Atlanta, even with this package. So Anderson and Jennings may have to buckle up because Anderson's on an 18-lap stint, including the caution laps, Jennings on 13.
Let's see how it unfolds. The field behind him, West Jr. going to lead the charge. And looks like Jennings was actually just getting waved around the pace cars. He just passed the pace car.
He is in second position. He just floored it around, so it looks like Jennings may have something to check on in the Joe's Racing Products machine.
Let's see, as he's taking it easy on the backstretch right now, as he's almost come to a stop in 3 and 4. So maybe he thought he was in position for the wave round, or he may have been trying something out.
May just need to check something on his end. Some drivers do have that habit, but Dan West Jr. will check in with him. Third position now for this upcoming restart. Freshest tires in the field. First of all, what's going through your head for this restart, Dan?
I'm hoping I can get a good run on the outside here to get around the one car since he's got a few laps on it. We'll see. It's going to be, 10 to go, so it's going to be crazy.
What happened from your perspective on that incident to bring out the caution flag, by the way?
I felt like the 32 might have got in there on me. I'm not sure what happened behind me that caused the caution.
Either way, big restart here, coming in as the points leader. You mentioned how you want to attack this. Are you going to go for it immediately if you get a run, or give it a couple laps? How do you play this?
I think it depends how we land going into one, but I'm going to the front as fast as I can. 46 will be fast. I'm sure the one still got some tires left, so I think he'll be pretty good. I'm not sure about the 111, but I'm definitely going to go to the front as fast as I can.
Should note Anderson's on the oldest tires in the field at the moment. We'll let you focus on the restart. Good luck.
Thanks, guys.
So once again, to remind you, Anderson now approaching a 20-lap stint, including pace laps. Jennings on a 15-lap stint, including that total. West Jr., Brightsman, and the rest of the game all took 4 tires and fuel on that pit stop sequence. 9 laps to go. This is going to be nerve-wracking, Greg.
Different strategies up at the front of the field. Oh boy. Justin, any last-minute predictions?
We're about to see one of them, possibly. Jennings with a decent amount of tire spin. None for Anderson. The green flag is out. Now here's the next prediction. Will we be able to hold it on to the lead? That is a question mark, Greg.
We will see how it all unfolds here. Dan West Jr., Sean Brightsman, Stephen O'Hare, Brian Barnes, and the cast of others all able to get around the 111 of Jennings. So Anderson, he may have been hoping that it took him a little bit longer to get around Jennings there, but this could help Anderson as Brightsman goes to the inside of West, and look at O'Hare trying to go 3 wide through the middle perhaps. That could help out Anderson if they get racy behind them.
Remember, West Jr. mentioned just moments ago he wanted to get the pass on the top side. He's going to do it. Squeezes Anderson, just gets clear. New race leader Dan West Jr. and the rest of the pack tries to get below the 37. Brightsman trying to fall on the bottom side. Here comes O'Hare.
As Brightsman makes the move to the inside. O'Hare coming as well, as is Brian Barnes. So Caden Anderson looks like the tires staying out, or the staying out strategy might not have worked out. Just a little bit too much wear on the tires. Look at Dylan Huffines. Remember, he was caught up in that incident that brought out the caution. He's trying to get back up here in the mix of things. He's up in the 7th position the last time they crossed the strike.
Stabnow back to where he started as well in this race in the 8th position. Bit of a squeeze on Hutchinson as both of them push up the racetrack. Lots of hard fighting coming to 6 laps to go. Make it double file, 2-3 rows deep.
Remember, Dylan Huffines in the 5 car. He started 27th, and here he is knocking on the door of the 5th position as Stabnow washed up the track and had to back out of the throttle. Carl Burke able to get around Anderson on the outside. They will
caution
on the inside.
Caution flag is out on the racetrack, and it appears to have been in turns 1 and 2. There was a dooring that sent Stabnow up the racetrack, but the driver that brought out the caution flag was in the middle of the pack, about 11th and 12th. Frank Harris turned the 7 machine of Brett Johnson to bring out the yellow.
And unfortunately, Caden Anderson was hoping this race is going to stay green, because now he's kind of stuck in that strategy. Like you mentioned, here we take a look at the LSR TV replay. You see right here, Brett Johnson kind of all by himself here.
Keep an eye on that 11. Remember, Johnson's a lap down. The lead lap car was Harris. And it's going to come in turn 1. Just see how much speed differential there is alone in the corner.
That's just the product of new tires versus old tires, and right there you see it. Right, just came up so quickly that nowhere for him to go.
He was on 27, 28 lap old tires, and the strategy does not work out in the favor of one of the drivers trying to get themselves in the lead lap. He was the lucky dog car, by the way, if he wasn't involved in an incident, but we're in green-white-checkered territory, folks. Dan West Jr., Sean Brightsman, Stephen O'Hare, Brian Barnes. It can go to anyone in the span of 2 laps.
We will see how it all unfolds. You know this is going to be the raciest restart we've seen all day. There is no more playing it safe now. This is go time. It's final restart, perhaps, as Tyler King gets the wave around to move back around. So here we go. Justin, it's the final shootout now.
By the way, King going 1 lap down now as the lucky dog. Daryl Tidrick was also 1 lap down. And we have a couple more DNFs that have popped up in the last couple caution flags. Chad Malik now done for the race. James Vining involved in that incident prior to the caution flag the last time around. He is now done for the night as well. Just 13 drivers, surprisingly, though, in the lead lap for this upcoming restart, Greg.
That's just a product of just how this race has unfolded. We've seen so many drivers fall into that trap of being caught up in incidents through the course of the day, and there's several still on the track. We don't have very many drivers out of the race right now. Looking through, I guess we do, but quite a few drivers only 1 to 2 laps down. That's just because they were caught up in incidents and maybe had already used their fast repairs, so they got stuck on pit road a little bit longer.
Indeed. So now becomes the question, as King comes down for his pit stop past the lucky dog car, now 1 lap down. How do you play this if you're West Jr. first?
If you're West Jr., take the inside and just try to get as big of a gap as you can get on the initial restart and hope that it's enough to where you don't even have to worry about a run coming from a Brightsman or O'Hare or Barnes or even Carl Burke back there. If you can get a big enough gap, it's only a couple of laps around the track, and we've seen Dan West Jr. is so strong on the short run that if he can get a strong enough restart, it may work out that he can just ride out the remaining 2 laps.
But you heard a bit of concern about Brightsman and his pace. What do you do if you're Brightsman, O'Hare, Barnes, and the rest of the group to try and get the win?
If I'm not Dan West Jr., the one I want to be on the pit box for right now would be the 41 of O'Hare. We've seen the inside lane. The driver starting second on the inside lane, in this case it'll be O'Hare, is able to get such a good run by being able to go when West goes, whereas Brightsman on the outside pole will be kind of at a disadvantage. He has to wait to see it out the side of his car. O'Hare can just go as soon as the 55 takes off. If I'm O'Hare, I'm trying to stay up as close to the 55 as I can and try to get past the 46 of Brightsman, and if I can hang with the 55, I might be able to get a run at him. If I'm Brightsman, I'm going to try to break up the 55 and the 41 as much as I physically can. We saw Seth Frazier was able to do it a couple times earlier in the day. Maybe Brightsman might be aware of what Frazier was doing, and he might be able to pull that off and set himself up.
Green-white-checkered is official, one of 2 attempts. Remember, to have an official finish, you must take the white flag. If there's a caution flag on the first lap of the first GWC, well, we recommend stack them. If we get a caution flag on the second green-white-checkered, the race will finish under yellow. So, this is going to be wild here.
All previous conservation is out the window right now. West Jr., Brightsman, O'Hare, Brian Barnes, Carl Burke, your top 5. Caden Anderson, but he is on older tires, just trying to hang on right now and maybe luck into something if something happens. Dylan Huffines up 20 positions after being caught up in a couple of incidents. In the 7th position, Justin, it's green-white-checkered time.
Green flag is out. Good launch. Anderson even with a good launch on some of the oldest tires in the field. Now it becomes the question, can West Jr. hold on? Brightsman still up on the top side. O'Hare with the good run off the start.
That is exactly what I talked about with O'Hare. That's what he needed to do. He had to stick with the 55, and look at this. He's going to be able to get a run to the inside. He's got Brian Barnes peeking high. O'Hare is to the door of West as they come through 3 and 4. Brightsman able to get up on the back bumper of West, coming to the white flag. West washed up the track. O'Hare's going to be able to clear him. They're 3 wide for second.
Brightsman forces it up the middle, 3 wide of the stripe, race is official, 1 lap to go. O'Hare on the bottom, Brightsman in the middle. West Jr. trying to floor it up on the top side. He cuts down to the middle, Barnes joins the front, down the backstretch they go, one final time.
Brightsman has the nose in front, has West tucked up behind him. Barnes gets into the same position with O'Hare. O'Hare's going to get a run on the inside. They come through 3 and 4. Checker flag in the air. They're coming to you, Justin.
Make it a drag race. Brightsman gets a shot from West Jr. Sean Brightsman wins it at Atlanta and a thrilling finish.
Sean Brightsman played that perfectly by starting on the outside, got down, was just able to break it up enough to where O'Hare was able to get the run on West in a spot that Brightsman was able to get past both of them in the drag race for the finish. Unbelievable. What a move by Sean Brightsman.
For Sean Brightsman, it's his 2nd victory of the season, both of them at 1.5 miles. It just so happens, Greg, his last win was at Texas. Did you mention the similarities? Well, Brightsman is the man who comes up on top in this one.
Sean Brightsman winning it at Texas, winning at Atlanta, albeit very, very different circumstances on the finish. As what an incredible job by Brightsman to play that perfectly, and he's getting to burn it down here on the front stretch.
Very happy driver indeed. It's his 44th career victory in Northwest Racing Series competition history. He is 2nd all-time now by 14 total wins. Over top, Jeff Stabnow is slowly reeling in Mark Walls at the top of that leaderboard. Unofficial results for these drivers as some of them join in on the fun. Brightsman wins by about 5/100 of a second. Dan West Jr. in 2nd. O'Hare, Barnes, and Burke round out your top 5. Dylan Huffines comes home in 6th. Scott Hutchinson in 7th. Anderson 8th. Lowther, the first man to get a hit in at the checkered flag celebration in 9th. And Jeff Stabnow recovers to a top 10 finish.
Frank Harris in number 11 finishes P11. tonight, with Steve Jennings and Casey Tillman rounding out the 13 cars on the lead lap. First car one lap down, Tyler King, another case of such a strong run. Just the result doesn't reflect the run that he had. Daryl Tidrick rounds out the top 15. Brett Johnson, the final car, one lap down in 16th. John Ottenbacher, Steve Paulison, and Timothy Ricketts Jr. 2 laps down, 17th through 19th, with BJ Tidrick 3 laps down in 20th.
21st position goes to Seth Frazier as he made a major mistake at a crucial moment for the race lead. Hit the door of West Jr., trying to floor it as hard as he could to take the lead. Instead, causes the big one in Atlanta. 9 laps down is where he finishes. Unfortunate race for Seth Exotic Frazier. Gary Nichols comes on 22nd, had technical issues. Parked at 13 laps down. Vining 23rd. Mavic 24th. White, Stuzzi, Rozier, Walters, McClure, and Mann round out the top 30. Bruce Lee Weaver is the last driver in the race today. He crashed along with Scott Mann on the same lap, 107 laps down today. Post-race coverage coming up in just a few moments. We'll take a step aside. When we come back, we begin the Clan Wars post-race show live from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway. You're watching LSR TV, your home for sim racing.
They say everything is bigger. These guys down in Texas aren't messing around. This feature race will separate the boys from the men, the girls from the ladies. Can you handle racing 300 laps for $25,000? It's not as easy as you think. We don't stop to tow those too weak. We just push them out of the way. We don't run 20 laps. We run 300 each night. We don't care about what you and your boys have under the hood. Bring all you got. Don't be scared. Call my Cowboy Jack today to get signed up. It all goes down on October 2nd and 3rd in Mesquite, Texas, just outside of Dallas. Kenny Wallace is coming back this year to try again. You don't have excuses. Go to LoneStar600.com now.
Taking a look at the sights and sounds around Atlanta Motor Speedway as we begin the Clan Wars post-race show, the official communication partner of LSR TV. Justin Prince alongside Greg Rentz in the broadcast booth, Charles Wooden in the director's seat for tonight's action. What a phenomenal finish. But first things first, let's talk to our third place finisher, a part of that drag race to the checker flag, Stephen O'Hare. First things first, Stephen, how do you feel coming home third tonight?
A little disappointed. That was a heck of a race. It was a ton of fun. And I just, congrats to Sean. He was coming there in the middle of the race. I feel like we had that long green flag run, and he tracked me down. And Dan wasn't too far behind. So, I feel like two best drivers got up there, but that was just so much fun, and I hope that it was really exciting being able to watch that.
It was exciting up in the booth, absolutely. What was your strategy kind of for that restart to the finish?
I was starting behind Dan there on the inside line, and I had pretty consistent, decent starts there on the bottom coming out of 2, and so I felt like if I could get a nose underneath him getting into 3, I'd have a pretty good shot, and I did that, and it still wasn't enough. So it was fun. We were close, so it was just fun, and I hope it was exciting to watch.
It absolutely was. Now the question is, your expectations for the next race, because You're going road course racing, the Charlotte Roval for the Cup Series.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really exciting. I've ran, some practice laps there, and it's really slow, strategic-wise. So I think it should be pretty exciting. I'm not a road course ace whatsoever, so that'll be the wild card. Anyone
you want to thank before we let you go tonight?
Absolutely. Thank you guys up there, LSR TV, for broadcasting these races. I think this hopefully this was pretty exciting for everybody watching. It was certainly exciting for me. And then the Northwest Racing Series guys, great group of guys, ton of fun, and they know how to wheel a car.
Absolutely. Congratulations on the podium finish tonight in what was one of the more thrilling finishes this season.
Thank you, guys.
Stephen O'Hare coming home third tonight. Standing by with the second place finisher, Greg Rensis with Dan West Jr.
And Dan, what an unbelievable race there to the end. Talk us through that last lap run with Brightsman, O'Hare, and the cast behind you.
Well, I knew when we come to the green there, I knew when the 41 car Stefan was behind me, he was going to definitely set me up going down the back straightaway. So when I come off at 2, I kind of looking in the mirror at the 46 car, watching him, see if he get a good run off the top, and definitely Stefan jumped in there. So I was going to try to block him. I thought, he earned it, and I'm going to give him a little room. And then we come off at 2, and I don't really quite remember everything from there, but it was crazy. It was fun. It's probably one of the funnest races I've had in a while, and happy for Sean to win it. The 41 car was awesome. 32 car was awesome all night. There's a couple other cars there. It was pretty good too, but it was tight racing all night.
And you mentioned there it was a lot of fun. It was so much fun to watch up in the tower, and not just that finish. It was fun watching you guys race all day. You mentioned you had a good battle with the 32, and that battle raged on for pretty much the entirety of the race, with Stephen O'Hare there as well, playing a role in there as well. Talk to us about that battle throughout the course of the race with Frazier.
Yeah, Seth, he's, one thing about him, he's good about saving tires, so you don't know if he's really pushing it or he's just kind of holding on to put some laps down. But the 41 car definitely made it interesting, splitting us two, and you, as you've seen, we were changing positions for the lead there, and so it just made, I tried to get out front, and be honest with you, I tried to get out and kind of coast a little bit, and I was kind of laughing because these guys weren't having it. They were pushing me all the way. So had a good run there with Seth. I don't know if I pinched him going down into 3 a little bit, but that's not like us two to get together at all. You don't ever see that. And it was kind of a bummer because I'd like to see how his day would have turned out.
All right, well, you come home with the second place, but next week we're going to the Roval, and I believe we talked about this a little bit on Thursday. Your thoughts going into the Roval next week?
Well, like I say, it's not my favorite place, but it's definitely challenging. Stefan kind of hit on something, and I did go in there and practice with the truck the other night, and it's amazing how you just don't charge the corners like you would on a speedway track, obviously. And that's just, it's all about slowing down and getting your rhythm going. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. It's a change of pace. So we'll see how it turns out. If we can get a top 10 out of there, I'd be pretty happy.
All right, a second place tonight for Dan West Jr. We know you got some guys you want to thank as always, so who you got?
LSR TV, Effective Web Solutions, and Northwest Racing Series. I appreciate all you guys. Thank you very much.
All right, that's Dan West Jr. Second place. Congratulations on the second.
Thank you.
And we're going to go back down to Victory Lane, where Justin Prince has caught up with the race winner tonight, Sean Brightsman.
Yes, indeed, a phenomenal finish. Sean Brightsman comes away with the second victory of the campaign. First things first, Sean, how does it feel to win your second race of the season, second multi-time winner this season?
Oh, it feels great. That was a heck of a race. That was a great one to win. So I'm just overly thrilled.
Let's talk about your strategy on that GWC. You were starting in a decent spot. What was your strategy to get yourself this win tonight?
I I just tried to get the win. That's really what it came down to. I saw an opportunity. Dan kind of went a little high, and Stefan was down low, and I saw an opportunity to shove it 3 wide, and said, I'm gonna go there. And hopefully in one I didn't pinch Stefan too much, or if I did, I'm sorry, Stefan. But that was really the only opportunity I had. I was just going to try to hold him off as much as I could under those conditions. So.
Indeed. How would you describe how the racing was tonight? We talked to you a bit about the tire saving before. Overall, now that the race has come to its completion, how would you describe how it was to try and get yourself to the field, to try and have that methodical drive to get yourself in position to win?
That's a tough question, Justin. It's really just about wanting to win and have fun, right? So, I mean, getting myself into position, I really kind of threw that away when I slid through my stalls. So just to even get the chance and be up here and see all the racing that progressed and watched, everybody give and take and keep tires. It was easy to see where my strategy was going to play out, especially in the long run. The short run is where I was worried the most. I really wasn't sure what I had. I hadn't done any hot laps or anything like that. So this last Green-white-checkered was just hopefully it works.
Well, it worked overall. Now, Roval's the next race. How confident do you feel about your chances at the Roval?
I don't know how confident I feel about winning, but I'm looking forward to it. I love road course racing. I think it's a blast. I love road course racing with the cup cars, trucks, all that. So I don't know if I'll have a shot at the win. There's a lot of really good drivers here, especially on the road side, that are out of their comfort zone on the ovals. So I expect a lot of them to be up front as well, and I think it's going to be a pretty exciting 44 or so laps, or maybe even more. Who knows what's going to happen, but it'll be an interesting one, to say the least.
Absolutely. Before we let you go and thank your sponsors, we have a little surprise for you. Charles Wooden is celebrating his birthday on April 25th, and he'd like to give you a present. $25 going your direction tonight for winning this race. How does that make you feel?
Woo!
What are you going to spend the $25 on then?
I don't know. I'm grinning ear to ear, so that's amazing to hear. Happy birthday, Charles. Thanks for throwing out $25. I had no clue until this moment right here. What a great surprise for me. I don't know what we're gonna have to do. Maybe it goes back to the league or something. I'm not really sure, but this is awesome.
We wanted to keep it a bit of a surprise to make it all that much sweeter for this victory tonight. Anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Absolutely. I got to thank everybody at LSR TV for sponsoring the 46 Toyota Camry. Wicked Chassis, former teammates of mine, Jeff, Mark Walls, John Ottenbacher, all those guys. Dan, Northwest Racing Series, Justin, Greg, you guys are killing it. And Cody, you're doing a great job, man. Keep it up in the production booth.
Thank you very much for the time, and congratulations on the victory. It's also your 44th in Northwest Racing Series competition history.
Thanks, Justin. I appreciate that.
Sean Breitzman coming away with the victory tonight. I'd like to thank him, Dan West Jr., and Stefan O'Hara for joining us in post-race coverage on the Clan Wars post-race show. Now, before we head off towards the sunset, Greg, your final thoughts before we prepare for the Charlotte Roval.
An unbelievable race here in Atlanta. So many different cards played throughout the course. Twists and turns, different guys up front. That was about everything you could ask for in a race here at Atlanta, and that was unbelievable to watch. I was so happy to be up in the tower with you being able to call this one, Justin.
Absolutely phenomenal finish. One of those classic Atlanta finishes. To quote some of the broadcasts in the mid-2000s, we had one of those classics tonight. We'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's coverage of the Northwest Cup Series presented by Walls Beard Co. And what was a phenomenal finish. Congratulations to Sean Breisman on his second victory of the season and 44th in his Northwest Racing Series career. But it's time to say goodbye. For our producer, Charles Wooden, for Greg Rentz, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. We'll see you next week when we go road course racing at the Charlotte Roval.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSR TV and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of 52 Media LLC and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. LSR TV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.